Kids, aloha. Oh boy, I'll tell you, I'm really happy to see somebody came back and just wanted to hear something from Uncle Martin. I left off with Dog Food Man and Candy Man for, I believe it was smoking. Smoking, let's go with cigarettes. How, well, you always get to choose, kids, if you're going to ever have a cigarette or not, okay? And I just wanted to show you guys, since I'm really feeling I'm getting to know you so much better, that, well, you saw that one picture I had of Bro and me. I was the big one. That was taken when we got to Flagstaff 2 months before. See, that's what I'm saying. Remember back ways when I said I was going up to the store with Mom and Marmaduke, that dog that took off his chain and was running at us. That would have been my size at 4. That I gave all that, not love, but fear to Marmaduke. And that's, I think, obviously why he had to say hello and broke his chain. And Mom, I'm not going into that again. That was my first realization of how fear, you have to let it go, all right? Or you don't have to. I gave out fear, and Mom said, have no fear. So I listened to her, and it came out much more positive. I just had to go back on that. The other thing was, as I said, smoking. I told you kids, I always find the picture. This is when I'm 5, up in Flagstaff. Bro is 3. Mumsy and Dad, they have a little experience, but they have more experience than us. So this is the family picture 2 months before Christmas. Okay, this is me, Bro at 3, Mumsy and Dad, okay? Just so you have an idea of what we're looking at. Okay, just had to get that out of the way so you can see the time frame, obviously, that I have now compared to then. So you remember pictures and you remember things. When I was saying to you kids earlier, what do you remember, kid? Hey, kid, what do you remember? I was saying I remember drowning at 3, and then you kids helped me remember the blue couch, going across the floor faster than they ever seen me move, climbing up, pulling my brother's feet to my face, eating his toes like corn on the cob. We went through that. But we went to where Bro was, he was smiling and laughing. And this is just for, this I'm bringing up only for those naysayers that are saying you can't come into Planet Terrific smiling, let alone laughing. So I got something for these people, because it wasn't gas. As I said, I would have been the first to know that if it was gas, because it was, if it appears that way, it's gas, something about digestion or discomfort. No, I was thinking about it today. I was giving my brother his very first reflexology. Remember? All your toes get crystallizations in them. Your fingers get it, and your shoulders get it. Remember the Spock game? You go in like, ah! That's where your crystals, if you have people with more experience, you go over to the kids, you go over to their shoulders, and they'll say, give me a back massage, and you go, and you feel like you're hardly touching them. Ah, yeah! That's where the crystals form. So, Bro and I was always doing that, and we didn't have any, we could take it harder than anybody else could. That's because I was chopping down those dead elm trees. We were climbing the rope, doing everything that you can do physically. I mean, you know, building up your muscles. And you gotta be specific here sometimes. So that's what happens. Bro was getting his first reflexology by his brother. So that's why he was making those happy sounds, even though they say you can't do that here. Just saying, there's always a positive side and a negative side. And the other negative side was these guys on the negative side, you don't, kids, you got to push until 5. Don't even worry about right and wrong. You got until 5. You don't know anything until 5. 22 months old, I knew I'd be hurting my brother if I bit his toes off. So what am I, a special case or something? Oh, I'm sure people have said that, but no, I believe all you little 22-month-old, 3-year-olds know what I'm talking about. You know, if you pinch somebody or start something, it's negative. You know what I'm talking about. Don't try to say you got to wait until 5 and you can keep pinching your brother or sister. I got news for you. When this comes out, there's going to be some, oh boy, there's going to be something going on, I'm sure. Hope it's positive. Okay, Candyman and Dog Food Man, I just got to put them out on the shelf for you because it had to do with smoking, how romanticizing smoking can even get you to where you didn't realize it was a romantic thing. Dog Food Man, I'm sitting down one day, and the guy has literally, I'm bringing out my lunch. Candyman has his lunch. It's not candy, but this dog, I call him Dog Food Man. He pulls out of his bag a can of dog food, and I asked him, you know, hey, where's your dog, man? Did you bring a? Where's your dog? Where are you keeping him? We've been working a couple hours. Is he in your car? He says, no, I don't have a dog. You got dog food? Yeah. And then Candyman goes like this. Watch this, kid. Dog Food Man, he had a can opener. It was one of those can opener kind. So he opens it up and gets out a spoon. Doesn't even heat up the dog food. This is a dog food. I don't know the name. It had a German Shepherd on it. A German Shepherd face dog, if anybody knows what that brand is. And that was, he scooped in and he says, no, son, you want to have some? I said, no, I got my own lunch. And he eats the dog food in front of me. And, well, okay, so this is the time frame. 1973. This guy looks like he's about ready to retire in a couple of years. Actually, that's what it was. And now it'll come full circle. Both of them were going to graduate, retire in about 2 years. So that comes into it, trust me. You don't have to, but you'll see full circle. So he's eating this dog food, and I'm saying, you know what? I got to know why you're doing that. We have plenty of money. You can have half my sandwich. He says, no, you have to acquire a taste for it. I said, you don't say. And I said, well, why are you eating it? He says, well, because in the 40s, when the war, World War II, they didn't have much money. But I found out later, my grandfather was on the railroad, and they had no. In fact, everybody had, well, pretty much. You can get at least oatmeal. In fact, that's what people were living on back then. That was really some hard times. They were eating grass, no, like the grass you would mow with a mower. They were eating that. The ones that were living were eating. I guess there was a lot of people starving over here too. The story goes is oatmeal water, which is pretty high in nutrients. People that didn't get oatmeal to eat, they had oatmeal water. They were doing in gallon containers, and the families were doing pretty well that got oatmeal water. I'm thinking, boy, we had some hard times, didn't we? This guy apparently got hooked on dog food. So it's what we acquire our taste on Planet Terrific, I suppose, that we all have different tastes. That's what it comes down to. I never knew that you could eat dog food. It just didn't smell very good either. Dog food. So he ate like half a can. I guess he put it away for later. So I just had to get that out of the way. Dog Food Man. Now you know who I'm talking about. And Candyman, he was the one who pulled out his. It was a non-filter. And he says, hey, has anybody got any candy here? And I said, no, I got some cherry pie, you know. Candy. And then somebody, yeah, I got some candy. And they throw him, it was either a Pell Mell or a Lucky Strike or whatever the non-filters are. Camel. That's what Uncle Joe and Grandpa were smoking. So it's like everybody has their own tastes on everything, right? So Candyman was calling cigarettes candy. All right? Okay. Just put all that on the back shelf. It just really does come full circle. If we can just get to Uncle Martin. 2 months before Christmas, because that's what I'm saying. That's when we got our boxing gloves, 16-ounce boxing gloves that I'm not going to go into. I'll find a picture. Bro and I am in my underwear. I think it's pretty big underwear. So, and that was after my first fight in kindergarten, so that's how we got the gloves. Duh. The dad wanted us to know how to fight, so we started then. I got presents. That was the last present. The other present was Dad always had a tool bag, and I always wanted one, so I got one. A leather tool bag. It was crummy. I had the hammer that I ended up break. It was a steel hammer. I broke the claw. I was a primitive Pete guy, and I broke that. And then when I turned it around, I hit myself in the top of the head with it, and so I had to go get stitches. Yeah, okay, but somewhere, I guess before I did that, Aunt Nancy is smoking cigarettes. And Dad sees that I'm watching her smoke cigarettes. In fact, I think the Flintstones had come out, and they were doing some kind of cigarettes grate and all that at the end of the commercial. Then we went to bed. But Dad saw my eyes lit up about these Freddie and Barney smoking cigarettes. So he's telepathically picking things up. And then when I was looking at Aunt Nancy lighting her cigarette up, Dad says, hey sis, give me one of those cigarettes. And Dad never smoked before. I never saw him ever smoke before. So she's getting it, and he's blowing it out. And I'm saying, Dad, when did you start smoking? I didn't know you smoked. He says, no, I do every now and then. It relaxes me. I said, really? It relaxes you? He says, yeah, I never seen you do it before, Dad. He says, oh, well, I've done it in the past. He says, would you like to try one? I said, yeah, Dad, I want to do everything you do. And kids, that's what you usually feel, right? When you see your parents, you're gardening, you're growing up as kids, you're saying, I want to be just like them. Don't you? Don't you? I'm sure you do. Well, hopefully if they're doing positive things or negative things, you're still going to want to be like them. That's the way it works, kids, it seems to be. Unless you have a really discernment, you're at this age of discernment and seeing if they're doing something negative, maybe you'd put it on the back shelf. You children are very alert now, by the way. Each generation gets smarter and smarter. Remember Uncle Martin saying that, and I'm not going back on that. It's the truth on that. Dad does not let me light my cigarette. As you know, children, you do not play with matches. It's very negative and dangerous. He lights, I pick out a cigarette, a fresh brand new one, and he says, okay, I'll light it for you, son. And by the way, you have to take in a big hit like I did. So before I could even, it burnt going down and it burnt coming out. I'm coughing up smoke, I'm crying, and both my Aunt Nancy and my dad think it's the funniest thing in the world. I run off to my bedroom, and I got a picture of it somewhere. My tool belt's on, my face is in the pillow, I'm crying, but you can't see my face, but I'm crying, and they take the picture. So I got that somewhere. I learned at an early age that there's an art to it, and I think that's what Dad knew, that I didn't know the art yet, so why not give the kids something to think about? So that's how I started my first cigarette. Now, when I got up to my first 5th grade, and Millstone, it seems like Aunt Nancy seems to be involved in this. By the way, Dad did say that I don't want to ever catch you guys smoking. You know, I said, don't worry, Dad, I'm not going to do that. Well, it was already too late. In my first 5th grade, I remember I was out in the woods chopping down elm trees. Well, there was cherry leaves and acorns. We made little pipes, you know, and that was just something we did as kids. And that's about all I did as far as smoking, and I don't even suggest you kids do that, but do what you do. You do what you do. I would suggest it's negative, though. I am telling you it's negative. Any smoking, basically. We're going up to Hillsboro for Uncle Jim. I'm in the middle. Aunt Nancy's on the passenger side. We're heading up to Hillsboro store for whatever we're picking up. I think Uncle Jim had to get some cigars or whatever else. So he's coming back with a big old stogie in his mouth. And I'm looking at him like, yeah, wow. And Aunt Nancy sees that I'm looking at him. It's like deja vu. I'm like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 6 years later. She says, "Hey, have you ever had a cigar?" I said, "I don't know if I trust you, Aunt Nancy." She says, "No, I want to know. Have you ever?" I said, "No, I made a pipe out of the acorns and cherry leaves. I've done that." And she says, "Oh, okay. And have you ever had a cigar?" I said, "No, Dad says we can't smoke." She says, "Don't even worry about it. Uncle Jim has an extra one. Would you like to try it?" I said, "I don't think." Dad said I'd get a black belt if I ever got caught. She says, "I promise I'll never tell your father." She crosses her heart. No, that's good enough for me. That's positive enough for Uncle Martin. I said, "Okay, Uncle Jim, I'll take one of those cigars." I light it up. I'm smoking. I could now handle a cigar. I've already had cherry leaves, for crying out loud. So I think I got maybe halfway through. It's a short ride from Hillsboro back down to Millstone. So we have to look up the distance on that. I could care less. So we get home. I think she tosses it out on the road. No evidence, of course. Now we're sitting around the round table that we have. Lion heads and a lion paw, very rare. And I still have the table. That's what Aunt Nancy gave me. That's all I got, but that was enough for me. So we're around the table, and somehow cigars come up, and Dad's looking at me, and Uncle Jim says, "Yeah, whatever he's saying," and then Aunt Nancy says, "Oh, by the way, Mart, did you know that your son can smoke cigars?" I looked at Aunt Nancy like, "Aunt Nancy, you promised." And she starts laughing, and my dad started, yeah, my dad's laughing. I'm thinking, hey, that's pretty cool. They're all both laughing. And then my dad stops laughing and says, I thought I told you you couldn't smoke. You shouldn't be smoking. I said, Dad, Dad, I was only trying it because, Then Aunt Nancy spills the beans about me having an acorn with my cherry leaves that I was smoking. So Dad said, "Okay, this is really nice to know. I appreciate that." This is where the changing of the guards were. Remember when I said, you have to look back. We were playing that scaring game, and I scared my brother to death almost. And I said, "Bro, come back, bro, come back." And Dad lost count on the black belt, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he said, he didn't say it, but I never got the black belt again. Well, now the rules had been changed. Dad said, "All right, I promised that I would never hit you again with a black belt. But this is what we're going to do. This is a new game. You're going to go out to the woods. You're going to find a switch. And the switch has to go 1, 2, 3 times without breaking." All right, so I went out, and I wasn't very fast with figuring out how that works, but there's an art to doing this, children. I can't go there really right now because I picked out a green one, and boy, it was a 1, 2, 3. Like that sting stayed with me for a very long time. So that's what I'm saying. There's an art to finding the proper switch. Because that was the other rule I forgot to tell you. Dad said if it happens to break on the first time or the second time, I will go out and find the switch myself. Well, I got to where I understood what he was talking about, because I would find a switch that was just enough, not too green, not too dead, because it takes a while to figure this out, by the way. So it would be like 1, 2, and it broke. It usually broke on the first one. I got positive enough to where I got it down to where it would break on the second time, and it was a push. Oh no, it had to break on the third time. and it just worked out to where it didn't hurt as bad if it was dead, more dead than alive. Bro never figured that out, and I never really taught him. I let it go by at least a couple months. Because remember, whoever cried, we'd both go out to get the switch. And he'd like stick me in the face with the eye. I had to cry sometime there. but I could take it. You know, it didn't matter. Whoever cried, we both get to find the switch. It was a new game we played. And Dad had a psychological, if you haven't listened to any of this stuff, he was on a psychological level. When we had to go out and find a switch, and it could only be 18 to 22 minutes. If it was over that time period, he'd be out there finding the switch for us. So we knew if we waited just up to that point, he wasn't as angry by the time we came back. So that was another thing. So also, we had to go find something that here, Dad, you can beat us with this stick. It's okay. We found this for you, Dad, and we're ready. So any way you look at it, kids, Dad was thinking outside the box on many levels. No more black belt. We got to go find our own switch, which I had to help Bro at a certain point because I kind of felt sorry for the kid. He was getting, he was getting too green a switch. I'm sorry, that's not funny. That's very negative, kids, for you to be laughing at your little brother. I'm sure it's a brother you'd be dealing with. Who's gonna switch a girl? You know, I don't know. You kids don't even get switches or spankers. I'm saying this is so archaic. I'm just saying what Uncle Martin had to go through. So the cigar scene was, I didn't smoke any more cigarettes. Well, I did. We added up, it was the next year. Bro and I, we added up our pennies. It was 18 pennies for a pack of cigarettes. 1960, it was 65, 66, 65, 18 cents a pack. Now it's a little bit more. And so it should be. We get It was Chesterfields we bought. And we get back, remember I said there was a five-ton coal bin. Well, there was another coal bin on the back of the house. Nobody used, but there was coal in there. So we sat in there since it was closed in and nobody could smell the smoke. So and we knew Dad, Mom was okay. She wouldn't have smelt it. Dad was coming home in like a half hour. So we smoked 10 each, 20 in a pack. Bro got 10, I got 10, and we smoked all 10 in a half hour. When we got out, we couldn't even stand up. I think we fell over a couple times. So I don't suggest you smoke that quickly, not to smoke at all, really. So we learned that you can get dizzy by doing that. Plus, well, we didn't get caught, but in essence, I really didn't have a fondness for cigarettes after that. So I didn't. So I was like 11, and I didn't smoke again until I was 18 years old. See, so I had gone all that distance before even I had any inkling of trying. And then so, I guess my Spitfire was getting worked on, and I saw a machine and it had cool. I was like, that's pretty cool, and I smoked my coals. And by the way, menthol is the worst, the most negative because they're the most addicting to get addicted on cigarettes. If anybody statistically want to look that up, the menthol are the absolute most negative. Somehow I got changed over to Camel non-filters since that was my brainwashing for my Uncle Joe, my grandfather, all my uncles were Camel, pell-mell Camel non-filters. So I get, now this is after months later with Dog Food Man and Candyman. And Candyman is saying, you got some candy there. And you can see through my shirt that the Camel non-filters. So I said, candy? Yeah, candy, give me some candy. So I gave him a Camel and he's happy. And then he tells me the story. This is how the romanticism comes in, kids, and you don't even realize. He's saying, oh, when I wake up in the morning, I light a cigarette. After my cigarette, my sweetie comes in with some coffee. Well, I have another cigarette. And then I have my coffee. And then, after my coffee, I'll have another cigarette. So he has 3 cigarettes before he gets out of bed. I didn't add that up until later. And then he says, after that, he says, I'm driving to work, gotta have another cigarette. And before you know it, this guy has like half a pack of cigarettes before he even gets on the engine. You add this up, So this guy's smoking like, about 5 packs in like 8 hours. A whole pack. So anyway, my point is this romanticism of this, I tried it when I got up in the morning. Before I got out of my $600 spindle bed that I had bought, I'm smoking a cigarette. And then I had one of my sweeties, whatever one it was. I didn't tell you about all that. You gotta have women, women, women. So you have to do that too, I suppose, until you don't have to do it. But it took me a whole long time to realize that. Anyway, whatever sweetie I had was making me my coffee. So I had my coffee and I have another cigarette. And after my coffee, I have another cigarette. I was falling into the same pattern Candyman was. I wasn't out of bed until I had 3 cigarettes. I get to work and it's like a half hour. It's like I guess Somerville to Brill, Newark was like a half, well, usually 45 minutes. I could make it in a half hour. My Triumph, I could catch the lights. Anyway, by the time I got to work, I was going on an empty pack of cigarettes. By the time I got out of work, 8 hours or 12 hours, I was on my 4th or 5th pack of cigarettes, kids. I was smoking 5 packs of cigarettes a day. And I was only 18 years old. So just put that on the back shelf. 2 years go by. I am smoking 4 to 5 packs a day. And my breathing I didn't really know about until I was, they knew I could put on a brake, these big brakes, big chains, and you whip these things up and the chain comes up. And I was able to put my whole body weight, only 150 pounds, and I could snap a chain. That's how I could wrap a brake on these box cars. It was amazing. In fact, they knew by that time, they knew my rep and said, hey, kid, you're going to be riding this box car down and make sure it doesn't move. And when they smacked into 2, 3 box cars, heavy loaded, it would hit. I'd wait and watch it hit. It'd go like 9 inches, maybe a foot. That was all it went. So I was pretty proficient at putting on a brake. My point would be this. Thank God I'm coming to this. I get down. They're kicking down a car, and all of a sudden, we're looking at the sheet, and he says, "Who sent this car down?" I said, "You did. You undid it." He says, "Well, that's a clear alley. Did you put it?" I said, "No, I never did that. Yeah, number 7 is the clear alley." He says, and now it's going slowly. But he's looking at it. The dog food man are looking at this, and they said, "Yeah, that's a clear alley, all right." I'm saying, "Isn't anybody going to get it?" He says, "Kid, we got another 50 cars. There's no way we can get that in. The engineers on the head end over there, we got the car. There's no way we can get that. I guess it's going out the clear alley." I said, "It's going to go out to the main." And he says, "Well, you can get it if you want." So I'm running after it. And it took forever to get to it. I could barely grab the ladder. I'm climbing up. I'm seeing a main line with three engines with a big long train of boxcars coming up, and that's what I had. I had a boxcar and a tank car in front of me, and I was so I couldn't even tie on a brake. I saw it's going to hit. I had to climb back down. Bada bing, bada boom. It goes on the ground. A lot of oils all over the place. Everybody, boo, boo, boo. Everybody's there. In fact, there was some fusees going on some railroad ties. There was a fire going and oil. It wasn't looking very positive. Thank God the fireman got there to put out at least the fire. Now the train master shows up. This train master has a big boil on the back of his neck. I remember him well. They had a blanket party for him, which I won't go into. But both these guys are down there, and before the train master gets there, they said, "Hey, kid, how long you been here?" I said, "Well, the last time I worked with you, it was like 2 weeks, and you didn't let me work." They usually put you aside. And so I said, "Well, now it's been 2 years." He says, How many demerits do you have?" I said, "I don't have any demerits." He says, "Fantastic. You've got to take the blame." I said, "I'm not taking the blame. You guys kicked it down there. It was a clear alley. I would have rode it if you told." He says, "No, kid, we got too many demerits. We'll get fired on this one, and you got to take the blame. You got to do it." I said, "I don't think so." And they said, "You got to do it, kid. You got to do it." So I said, "Well," and then the train master shows up and says, "Whose fault is this?" And then they said, "Well, what do you say, kid?" because he wanted those two guys. He wanted them bad. And I saw that too. And I said, well, I did catch, I caught the ladder. I was up there. I was trying to put the brake on, but I didn't make it in time. So I wasn't lying, but I wasn't telling the truth. But I wasn't going to lie. I couldn't do that. I said I was up there and I couldn't tie the brake on, is what I said, which was true. Left it at that. And so he said, oh, it was you, was it? You sure it wasn't one of those guys? I said, nah, it was me. It was me that did it. And so they got off on it, and I took the blame. I guess that's when I quit smoking, kids. I noticed that when I was not able to breathe and do that, that was, in my mind, the time for Uncle Martin to say, I quit. And that's when I did, and I did it. I did join up again with that smoking probably another 2 times, and I'll go into how, if anybody wants to know how to quit, I can help you with that. But right now I've totally run out of time again. I apologize, but you pretty much know the importance of not smoking versus smoking. It can be very dangerous and negative, as well as for, I'm just saying, whatever you choose will be your choice. It always is. So, kids, until we see each other again, aloha! And I want everybody to be well.